I originally hesitated to use the Rubik's Cube as an example to draw off of for these devotions to start the year. The main reason being is because ultimately everything that we experience in our lives, as much as we would love to be well put together, just like this cube has been solved, it's all a work of God's grace. And more often than not, the sad thing is we find as we live life, we find a piece gets kicked out here and there. And before we know it, it's just things have gotten a little bit out of shape again. And it's not as well put together as we thought. It doesn't take much to full it up and to throw things off for us and to throw us off track. And that's one thing I've noticed the last couple of years during COVID. We're not as well put together as we sometimes think we are or convince ourselves we are. And the reality is this: as much as perfection is our goal, as much as we want to have it all completely put together, we're not going to experience that this side of eternity. That is the goal. That is what God is doing in us, is building perfection in us. But it's so easily tainted on this side of eternity. And so we need to be careful that as we are moving toward Christ and as we're walking with Him, as we're spending time with Him, that we have this kingdom perspective. And the kingdom perspective tells us this: as followers of Jesus, we need to be renewed by the transforming of our mind. We need to be changed in the way we think. That's one of the major things. We are moved from the old life to the new life. We're moved from death into life. And so as much as we may feel things are out of place, guess what? You're still alive. You're still moving. You're still in the race. As we lean into the kingdom perspective, we place an increasingly high value on the principles of the kingdom: love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, gentleness, faithfulness, self-control. These are the things of the Spirit. These are the principles of the kingdom that we want to see more and more at work in our lives. We want to lean into. And so what we want to do today especially, and as you lean into this year, ask the Holy Spirit, what is it He wants to teach you this year, to grow in you, to shape in you this year, to make you more like Him this year? What principles, what kingdom perspectives does He want to shape in you? Because it takes a person of humility and submission to ask that of God and to say, God, what is it you want to line up in my life? Because one of the things is, as we begin to solve the cube, and as the thing I saw as I would solve the cube, sometimes it felt like you were actually kicking pieces out in order to put it in the proper place, and it seems like things are getting worse before they get better. It feels like that a lot of times too when we're following Jesus. It feels like it gets worse before it gets better, because He's teaching us deeper things, deeper principles that don't come easily or simply. They come by following Him in obedience and in submission. And so ask Him for a word of guidance this year. Be intentional. Say, Holy Spirit, what is it that you want to speak to me? What word is it you want to speak to me this year? And then I challenge you with this. Write down whatever it is that comes to your mind in this prayer. Pray that prayer and then write it down. And then get together with this group that I've been encouraging you to consider forming, the 2, 3, or 4 others to get together with and say, hey, did you listen to Pastor Steve's devotion? What is it God's been speaking to you? What is it that you wrote down? What's the kingdom perspective that God's been speaking to you about this year? The word that He has for you this year? And encourage each other in that. Challenge each other in that. Hold each other accountable to take that seriously. Maybe to weigh out, is this the Spirit of God speaking to us in this area? You may be very surprised at what God is speaking to the people around you as well. Whatever God has in plan for you for 2022, we know it's this. He wants us to be with Him, and He wants us to be like Him. And that's our prayer for you this year as you grow in His grace and His goodness.